I'm Mike Hayes with Mike's AI 2-minute briefs for the time of your life. We are done with confusion. We are restoring our lives with AI and moving into abundance as the AI bloomers by growing more reasonable relationships, where we finally have the power to understand everything from our new cars to our doctors just by listening. To show you how simple it is to learn on the go, I'm handing the microphone to my team at AIPodcastListening.com. They guide me, and they will guide you too. Just listen and learn.
All right, let's talk about AI. Feeling a little left behind? Here's how you can master it. You know, for a lot of us, AI can feel like this huge, intimidating wall, right? But what if we could turn that wall into a bridge? That's the goal here. It's really about becoming an AI bloomer, moving past the intimidation and into your creative power. And this approach really balances two mindsets, the practical how-to and the visionary why. The solution? It's called the SAFE protocol. Simple, accessible, fun, and educational. It all boils down to just 3 simple steps. Let's get into them. First, you need a private space to just experiment, a place where there's absolutely no judgment. Think of it like a rehearsal room. You can get frustrated, ask silly questions, and just learn. Okay, step 2 is all about creating a clean slate. It's time to organize your digital world. And trust me, separating your life and business profiles isn't just a tech chore. It's about clarity. And the final step? Getting the right tool set. This is where you go from consumer to producer. Here's the simple way to think about it. Gemini is for brainstorming. Notebook LM is for building. And this whole process, it leads to a massive shift in how you use technology. Exactly. You're not just consuming anymore. Now you're the one producing your own amazing work. And this really gets to the heart of it. You seriously already have the skills you need. So really, this all leads to one big question for you to answer. What will you create?
Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, for many of us, and I'm talking especially to those of you who have navigated these incredibly complex professional worlds for decades.
Right.
You've managed teams, you've launched businesses, maybe you've orchestrated, huge family logistics.
The hardest job of all sometimes.
Exactly. And yet, this world of artificial intelligence, it can feel... Well, it feels like a paradox, doesn't it?
It does, because you are so competent. Incredibly competent in your own field, capable of critical thinking that's, frankly, at the highest level.
But then someone mentions an LLM.
Oh, yeah?
Or they say you need to understand a data pipeline, and all of a sudden you can feel sort of stripped of all that hard-won competence.
That feeling is so common, that feeling of just being confronted by this unscalable wall of jargon. It's completely understandable.
And you feel like you're back at square one.
And frankly, it's not your fault. It really isn't. The complexity is real, sure, but it's often artificially inflated by the tech sector itself. They use this language that almost gatekeeps the tools rather than inviting the world in.
That's a great way to put it, gatekeeping.
We're talking to a group of people whose greatest asset is their accumulated knowledge, their wisdom, and yet they're being made to feel, technologically inadequate.
And that is exactly the core problem we're going to tackle today. We've been doing a deep dive into this remarkable set of sources, a really comprehensive guide that, well, it doesn't just promise adoption, it guarantees transformation.
I love that distinction.
It's a blueprint for building a solid, reliable bridge right over that complexity wall. So our mission today is centered on this really powerful identity-shifting goal, transforming the generation we often call baby boomers into what this framework defines as AI bloomers.
And that emphasis is just
it's
profound. This is not about teaching someone how to use a new app. It's not another tutorial. It's about leveraging their existing, completely irreplaceable assets. Their life experience, their critical thinking, that ability to synthesize all these disparate pieces of information.
Well, the things they've been doing their whole lives.
Those are the true raw materials for AI mastery. The philosophy here is that the person with the most wisdom will get the most valuable output from the AI tool. So the AI bloomer movement is really about confirming that wisdom is, in fact, the highest form of data input.
Okay, so let's get right to it. What's the immediate core reassurance we need to offer everyone listening? Because that hesitation, that first point of friction, it's always, Am I qualified for this? Do I have to go back to school?
The sources are absolutely decisive on this, and it's probably the most empowering thing you can hear if you have basic digital literacy.
Which they define very specifically.
Very specifically and elegantly. The guide says, if you can navigate a website and successfully order a package online, you are already qualified to begin.
That's it.
That's it. That simple act proves you understand trust, you understand navigation, transaction processing, user interfaces, the perceived technical barrier, that idea that you need to know how to code. That's the first myth we just have to emphatically dismantle. Your competence in life is your competence in AI.
Perfect. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack this entire bridge structure. It's called the SAFE protocol.
Right.
And it's a framework that's really built on respect and clarity. We are not aiming to overwhelm you with a flood of new tools. Instead, we're going to provide simple, manageable steps that honor your experience and, frankly, respect your time. So let's make this your shortcut to becoming an empowered AI bloomer.
Let's do it.
So to really get the power of the SAFE protocol, we have to start with who we're advocating for. Who is this for?
We have to. And we're talking about highly intelligent people, individuals with decades of experience, often in very high-stakes environments. Think of project managers, small business owners, retired educators, people who have consistently shown they can organize complex systems and hit long-term goals.
Right. So their capability is not in question at all. They are not digitally illiterate, not by a long shot. They're just experiencing this moment of cognitive friction.
Exactly, friction.
It's caused by the language and the scale of modern AI. They see the potential, they recognize a powerful tool when they see one, but the entry point just seems intentionally obtuse.
It does.
So our focus has to be on advocacy, on validating that frustration they feel, while also providing a really clear path to use their expertise in this new medium.
And the unique challenge for this audience is that feeling of losing control over the learning curve. They're used to being in charge of the system, whatever that system is.
Yes.
And AI, at first, it feels like this uncontrollable black box. So the SAFE protocol, it directly addresses this by setting clear boundaries and establishing the right tone and approach for the whole transition. Every step, every tool, every piece of advice, it has to be filtered through this 4-part standard.
Okay, so let's unpack that. The SAFE acronym, it's not just a clever name, is it? It's a commitment. It's a methodology.
It really is. It defines the whole user-centric mindset. So it starts with the S.
Which stands for?
Simple. This is the non-negotiable principle, the absolute bedrock.
So no convoluted steps?
None. If a process takes more than, say, 3 clicks to achieve a major goal, it needs to be redesigned. We have to reduce complexity down to its absolute core, revealing the essential utility of the AI without all that baggage of technical jargon. Simplicity honors your time.
Okay, S for simple. Then we have A.
A is for accessible, and this is about removing friction.
Okay.
We're looking for tools that are readily available, ideally free or at least very low cost to start. And the instructions have to be so transparent that you don't need to call tech support to figure out the fundamentals.
So lowering the barriers to entry both financially and practically.
Exactly, making it immediately approachable.
Got it. SA. Next is F.
And F is, I would argue, the psychological anchor of the entire framework. Fun.
Fun. I like that.
If the learning process feels like a mandated chore, like homework, it will be abandoned. It doesn't matter how useful it is.
I think we've all been there.
We have. The sources really emphasize that success comes from connecting AI use immediately to personal interests.
So not some abstract business problem.
No. Maybe it's uncovering a hidden family history story, or planning your dream garden, or designing a hypothetical small business. If the AI becomes a partner in enjoyment, your engagement just skyrockets.
I love that emphasis on fun. It completely shifts the goal from I have to learn AI to AI is going to help me do the things I already love, but better.
Yes.
And to maintain that fun, the process has to stay low stakes and enjoyable. Can you give us an example? How does that fun principle actually manifest in practice?
Absolutely. There was this one case study, a retired professional who'd spent his life in logistics for a major corporation. So, a very serious, numbers-driven guy.
Right.
His first successful, sustained engagement with AI had nothing to do with business. It was pure intellectual curiosity and fun. He used the AI in that safe space we're going to talk about to ask it questions like, given the current cost of materials, how would I recreate the first computer I ever owned, just for nostalgia?
Wow.
And another one was, develop a comprehensive but completely impractical escape plan from a fictional island.
That's fantastic.
It wasn't productive in a traditional sense, But the act of conversing with the AI on his own terms, about things he found amusing, it built the muscle memory. It built the confidence for prompting before he ever tackled a sensitive or serious project. It was a joyful way to get started.
That changes the whole dynamic. It moves it away from, I should have learned this years ago, to look at this incredibly engaging new toy I get to apply my life's knowledge to.
It's a playground.
Okay, so that brings us to the last letter, E.
And E is for educational, but with a very important caveat. The learning must be continuous, but intensely practical. The goal is not theoretical knowledge. It's not about memorizing terms for a test. It's about application.
So how to use the tool to solve a real-world problem.
Or to create tangible value. Right now, this practical focus ensures that every moment you spend learning gives you an immediate, recognizable return on that investment of your time.
What's also fascinating here, and this feels crucial to that bloomer identity, is the emphasis on celebration. The guide says the transition from a boomer identity to an AI bloomer needs to be framed as an exciting graduation.
Yes.
It's an acknowledgement that their accumulated knowledge is finally being augmented by the most powerful digital tool ever created.
It's an upgrade. That's the word. It's an upgrade, not a remedial class, not a catch-up phase.
Right.
But to maintain that celebratory spirit, we have to address the biggest source of anxiety right at the start.
Which is?
The language. The jargon.
Right.
Which is why we have the jargon rule.
Yep.
This is absolutely central to keeping the process simple and accessible.
So if I start throwing around a term that belongs in a computer science textbook, I can't just let it hang there in the air.
No, you can't. It immediately violates the SAFE principles. I have to maintain absolute clarity. So, for example, if we use the term LLM, large language model, we have to clarify what that means right away.
And not just with a dry definition.
No, with an analogy that's immediately accessible to someone with high life experience. We just cannot assume universal understanding of these terms.
Let's really dig into this jargon rule because it feels like the foundation for everything. It's not just about defining a word, it's about providing a mental scaffold, right? So let's try some of the analogies the sources suggest, maybe moving beyond just cooking.
Fantastic idea. Let's use a management analogy since this audience understands organizational structure deeply. An LLM, okay, don't think of a server farm. Think of it as a vast, highly efficient, but maybe somewhat eccentric corporate library.
Okay, a corporate library. I like that.
It has every book, every document, every report ever written. It doesn't know the information in the human sense. It just knows the statistical relationship between all the words. So it can retrieve and synthesize ideas faster than any human, but it lacks genuine lived experience.
That's a great structure metaphor. It has all the data, but none of the wisdom.
Precisely. Now, let's tackle a common problem. Hallucination. In the tech world, that just means the AI confidently makes something up. So how do we explain that simply?
Okay, so if the LLM is the corporate library,
then a hallucination is like having a brand new junior researcher who is under immense pressure to give you an answer, even if the book they need is missing from the shelf. So instead of admitting, I'm sorry, I don't know, they confidently improvise the data. They sound authoritative because they're using all the right word, the right corporate speak, but the underlying fact is just invented.
It's a confidence trick. It's not a complex computer glitch.
That's it. Much more manageable than talking about neural networks, isn't it?
Way more. Okay, let's try one more common piece of jargon, one that's relevant to production. A data pipeline. That sounds incredibly technical.
It does. But let's use a metaphor from agriculture or project planning, something familiar from supply chain management. A data pipeline is simply the irrigation system for your content.
Okay.
It's the structured, orderly path that moves your raw input, your memories, your documents, your first messy prompts from where they're stored through the processing tool, the AI, and then it delivers the finished, polished water, your legacy content, to its final destination.
So it's about organized flow, not about coding.
Just organized flow, that's all it is.
I appreciate this idea of simplifying the language, but let me bring up a critical challenge here, one that the source material itself says we have to address. Why are we spending so much time on philosophy and language? Why does understanding the safe philosophy matter so much before we even touch a keyboard? Isn't there a risk that this slows things down and, potentially intimidates someone who just wants to get started?
That is a vital question, a completely fair question, and it speaks to the wisdom of the whole protocol. It's about managing your expectations and, most importantly, providing peace of mind.
How so?
Our listener is intelligent enough to know that learning anything new involves failure. It involves making mistakes.
Of course.
But in a complex digital world, mistakes can feel permanent, or costly, or just embarrassing. By establishing this safe framework, first by declaring that failure is not only okay, it's expected, and that the language barrier is artificial, we give them psychological permission to fail safely.
So it's a form of risk mitigation.
Exactly. It's cognitive risk mitigation. This context provides a secure foundation for everything that comes next. It shows them that their fear is normal, but it's entirely surmountable because we have intentionally built this user-centric methodology that respects their experience. So when they finally do approach the tools, they do it not with anxiety about the unknown, but with curiosity and a clear understanding of the methodology they're about to use. The mindset is paramount.
Okay, so philosophy locked down, language clarified. Now we need a secure space to practice.
Yes.
Which brings us to the first practical pillar of the SAFE protocol, the private confessional. This feels like a true game changer for getting over that initial learning anxiety.
It tackles the root of performance anxiety head-on. If you feel like you have to be immediately proficient at something, you'll hesitate, you'll procrastinate, you'll delay. The core idea of the confessional is just so straightforward. You are giving yourself permission to be messy, to make mistakes in absolute privacy.
You don't try to be perfect in public on day one.
Never.
This resonates so deeply. We all know that feeling when you start a new tool, you're just trying to find your footing, and you're terrified of looking foolish or asking a stupid question in a public forum or
even from a family member.
Yes, someone who seems to just grasp it instantly. The confessional eliminates the audience, and when you eliminate the audience, you eliminate the pressure.
It functions as this necessary, completely non-judgmental rehearsal room. Just think of any other high-stakes scenario. An executive preparing for a huge presentation, an actor learning their lines, a musician perfecting a difficult piece.
They don't practice in front of the live audience.
Of course not. They start in a private, low-stakes environment. This confessional is where you, the user, can vent your frustration openly, even to the AI itself. You can type, "I've tried this prompt 5 times and it keeps giving me gibberish," or "I'm frustrated because this button doesn't seem intuitive at all."
And because it's a machine, it doesn't get defensive. It doesn't roll its virtual eyes. It just processes that frustration and helps guide you toward a better result. It's essentially debugging your frustration rather than judging it.
That's the key distinction. The AI acts as the ultimate patient coach. And the sources are very specific about the recommended practical tool for this initial phase. The guidance is to use a free, private Gemini account as your designated confessional space.
I have to pause you here, because this is the critical challenge we have to address. If the entire philosophy is built on simplicity and accessibility, isn't telling an intimidated user to immediately open and learn another new, high-powered tool? Gemini, isn't that an immediate contradiction of the simple principle?
That's an excellent point. It's a completely fair piece of skepticism that the framework has to be able to withstand.
So why introduce a tool right at the start?
The reason is that Gemini isn't a traditional application. It's a conversational partner. Unlike learning a complex piece of software like, say, Photoshop or Excel, where the interface itself is a huge barrier.
All the menus and buttons.
Exactly. Gemini's interface is a single prompt box. That's it. If you can type an email, you can use Gemini. It minimizes the physical learning barrier to almost zero while maximizing the cognitive utility.
So the argument is that the complexity of the tool is very low. This allows the user to focus all of their energy on the complexity of the task.
The task of learning how to prompt and how to reason with an AI.
Yes, and the privacy aspect is why we recommend a specific personal account. The guidance is to use a dedicated private space so you can clean up your mess before you present any work or findings externally.
And that mess could be anything.
It could be a sequence of really poorly constructed prompts. It could be factual errors the user had to correct by searching somewhere else. Or it could just be disjointed brainstorming sessions. The confessional guarantees that you can experiment, fail, learn, and refine it all behind closed doors. Only the polished, successful final product ever leaves that room.
That is incredibly liberating, especially for a generation that, often values professionalism and avoids showing weak points in public. It changes the whole dynamic from a public test to a personalized, iterative coaching session.
And it directly addresses that information wall. For experienced learners, the most frustrating part of a new technology is that initial knowledge acquisition phase, which is almost always messy and involves a high frequency of failure.
By validating this messiness, by giving it a name and a space, the confessional turns frustration into productive feedback. The AI becomes your non-judgmental partner, and maybe more importantly, it helps you learn how to ask better and better questions.
Can we detail a specific scenario? Let's make this concrete. How does the confessional work in practice? Let's take the example of someone trying to create a mission statement for a new nonprofit they want to launch, using their decades of experience.
Perfect. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah is highly experienced in her field, but she's never used AI before.
Okay.
So, step 1, initial prompt. It's messy. Sarah opens her private Gemini confessional and she just types, "Write a good mission statement for a charity that helps retired teachers."
Pretty generic.
Very. So step 2, the AI output is also generic. Gemini comes back with 5 mission statements that are grammatically correct but completely lifeless, soulless. And Sarah is frustrated because they don't capture the specific spirit of her work.
This is where most people would give up.
This is the exact point. But because she's in the confessional, she doesn't quit. Step 3 is the interaction. She types, "These are too bland. I'm frustrated because they sound like they were written by a machine. I want to convey warmth and respect, and I want to focus on mentoring."
So she's telling it her feelings and giving it better instructions.
Exactly. And now, step 4, AI refinement. Gemini, instead of just generating 5 more bland statements, now acts as a coach. It might say, "I understand. To capture warmth and respect, we need more specific detail. What is the single most successful anecdote you have from working with a retired teacher?"
I see. The AI has now moved from being a passive generator to an active interviewer.
Yes.
It's guiding Sarah to provide the specific data, the wisdom that the AI needs to create a meaningful, non-generic statement. And the frustration was productive because it happened privately. And she can try this process 20 times in 15 minutes without any external pressure. And crucially, this high-stakes, low-anxiety experimentation aligns perfectly with the SAFE framework. By removing that performance anxiety, you drastically lower the psychological barrier to entry. This experimentation accelerates learning, simplifies the beginning, and makes the whole journey more accessible because that emotional load, the fear of failure, is handled internally between the user and their AI partner. The confessional is the psychological linchpin.
Okay, so once we've built that confidence, that muscle memory in the confessional, we need organization.
We do.
We move to the second key concept in the SAFE protocol, the clean slate architecture. And I really appreciate that this is framed explicitly as an organizational principle first and a technical requirement second. It really respects the fact that our listener audience values order. Absolutely. For our experienced listener, clutter equals stress. It doesn't matter if that clutter is a disorganized file cabinet or a chaotic digital workspace. The clean slate architecture is specifically designed to prevent mental clutter from overwhelming the learning, the planning, and the production process. This isn't about worrying over complex operating systems, it's just about cognitive hygiene.
And the guiding principle here is a really robust separation, isn't it? The sources call it separating church and state, but for your digital life.
Yes. The specific application of the separation is dividing your different domains of life and work when you interact with these AI tools. The source is very insistent on separating life and legacy activities from business and professional activities.
You just can't have them mixing.
You can't. You can't have your intense deep dive into a new market analysis proposal mixing with your search history about sensitive family medical records or personal financial inquiries.
So why is this separation so critical? Why is it more than just, good organization? Why is it a core architectural principle?
Because it fundamentally provides peace of mind. Think of it through the lens of cognitive friction, which is something this audience, having managed complex projects, knows intimately.
Okay.
Imagine you're working intensely in your business ventures profile. You're preparing a serious financial pitch. You are in a state of high focus.
Right, you're in the zone.
You're in the zone. And suddenly, a notification or a search suggestion pops up related to a personal health question you were looking up last night. That immediate jarring shift in context, that mixing of high-stakes business focus with personal, often sensitive domestic concerns, it creates instant mental fatigue. It shatters your focus.
It fragments your attention.
Completely. The clean slate ensures that when you open your legacy profile, you are entering an environment that is focused purely on your personal interests. Family history, creative projects, hobbies. The digital workspace matches your mental intent. You eliminate that anxiety that your personal searches might accidentally bleed into or clutter the profile you use for business correspondence.
And how do we actually do this? How do we achieve this separation without diving into some overly complicated tech solution? It has to be simple.
The recommended method is incredibly simple. It uses a feature that's already built into most modern browsers, leveraging Chrome profiles.
Okay.
This is a function that allows you to maintain distinct, separated digital identities all within the same computer. It's like having 2 or 3 completely separate digital desks.
So let's walk the listener through that practical setup. What would those profiles actually look like?
You would maintain at least 2. First, you'd have the Life and Legacy profile. This would use one unique Google account, and it's where all your confessional work, your private Gemini conversations related to personal stories, family history, and creative writing would live. Its bookmarks would be dedicated to things like genealogy sites or gardening tutorials.
Okay, so that's one desk.
That's desk number 1. Desk number 2 is the professional and business profile. This uses a different, maybe your professional Google account. This is strictly for market research, for drafting business plans, for financial analysis, professional correspondence. The bookmarks here are totally different. Industry news sites, accounting software, LinkedIn.
The genius here is that the separation isn't about complicated software. It's a strategic way to manage information flow and focus, which aligns perfectly with the accessible and simple goals of SAFE. It's reducing the cognitive load of switching contexts all day.
Precisely. If you are preparing a document for your business, you know everything in that profile is relevant to that business, period. If you're working on your family tree, you know the only information you will encounter is relevant to that sensitive personal project. By separating the context, you dramatically improve the quality of your output, and you significantly reduce the likelihood of making a human error caused by distraction.
And we also noted an implicit safety benefit here. For experienced users entering new tech domains, privacy and security are huge concerns. This separation provides immediate control.
A huge benefit. This compartmentalization is a fundamental safety measure. By keeping your sensitive areas separate and organized, you naturally create better digital hygiene. If you're experimenting with personal data in one dedicated profile, you know the boundaries of that data. If, in a worst-case scenario, that profile were ever compromised, the data in your professional profile remains completely untouched. The clean slate architecture is, in essence, just highly structured organizational management applied seamlessly to your digital world. It gives you immediate trust and control over your own information.
We've established the philosophy, SAFE. We've created the practice space, the confessional. We've developed the organization system, the clean slate.
Right.
Now we're poised to execute the most exciting goal of this whole movement.
Yes.
The shift in identity, moving from being a passive consumer to an active, powerful producer.
This identity shift is the fulfillment of the AI bloomer promise. It really is a reclamation of agency that is long, long overdue. For decades, this generation has often been positioned as just a passive recipient.
Right. A target for ads.
A passive recipient of digital content, of advertisements, of information. The framework emphatically declares this passive consumption phase is over.
And what specifically are they done being consumers of, according to the source material? Where are they most eager to reclaim that control?
The sources highlight 2 major areas of friction. First, they are done passively consuming generalized ads that are either irrelevant or, frankly, patronizing.
Yes.
And second, they are done consuming overly complex generalized healthcare and financial information that requires them to spend hours just translating it into something useful for them. They want to produce clarity, not consume confusion.
And instead, they are now positioned to leverage their experience, the greatest asset, and become creators. So what kind of new products are AI bloomers ready and uniquely qualified to create?
This is where that life experience becomes the catalyst. The source material details the creation of highly personalized, high-value content. Things like launching small niche businesses based on specialized knowledge they've had for years.
Right.
Creating focused, expert-driven podcasts. And, I think most significantly, structuring, writing, and publishing detailed family histories and legacies.
That's huge.
It links AI directly to enduring value creation. It's about transforming decades of personal knowledge into permanent, shareable digital assets.
That is such a powerful application. We're not talking about asking AI to write a term paper for a class. We are talking about using it as a high-powered organizational tool to structure and preserve a lifetime of knowledge for future generations. That is a tangible, emotional return on investment.
And to facilitate this crucial transition from thinking in the confessional to producing the final output, the SAFE protocol insists on a specialized, segmented toolset. This reinforces that clean slate concept by preventing the user from feeling like one massive, clunky application has to do all the stages poorly. Instead, we assign distinct, non-overlapping roles to two primary tools, Gemini and Notebook LM.
Okay, let's break that down. The two main roles in this new streamlined production pipeline. What is Gemini's designated function?
Gemini is dedicated purely to thinking. Its role is reasoning, perception, and brainstorming. This is your analytical engine. You use it in your confessional profile to generate ideas, to perform that iterative research, to check basic facts, and to refine your prompt strategy. It's the tool that helps you structure a raw, messy idea into a coherent plan.
So Gemini is the strategic planning phase. It's the engine room. It's responsible for the initial drafting and the logic. It's the messy, creative workspace.
Exactly.
And then what happens to those reasoned out ideas and refined outlines?
They move. They move to the second crucial tool, which is Notebook LM. And this tool is dedicated to building. Its role is production and legacy. This is the clean, structured workspace where all those gathered thoughts, those reasoned outlines, and your verified facts are structured into the final output. If you are compiling the final chapterized family history document, or crafting the definitive business pitch, or structuring the final script for a podcast, that final organized construction happens in Notebook LM.
Let's refine the analogy here, connecting back to the jargon rule and the need for high-level concepts our audience understands. If we compare this process to, say, sophisticated project management, how do Gemini and Notebook LM fit together?
Okay, think of it this way. Gemini is the chief strategist. They are responsible for the overall vision, for the initial feasibility study, for stress testing ideas, and for all the theoretical planning. They provide the blue ocean thinking.
The big ideas.
The big ideas. Notebook LM, on the other hand, is the project manager and archivist. Its job is execution, organization, version control, and ensuring all output is grounded only in the specific sources you provide it. This is key for accurate legacy work.
So the chief strategist tells you what to build, and the project manager organizes how to build it cleanly and tracks all the source material.
Precisely. And I see the power of that segmentation. It completely avoids that overwhelming feeling of a single complex program. You know exactly which tool to open depending on the stage of your workflow, which minimizes confusion.
Exactly. So when you sit down at your computer, you just ask yourself one question: am I in the conceptualizing and reasoning stage?
Then you open Gemini in your confessional profile.
Or am I in the structuring, compiling, and finalizing stage?
Then you open Notebook LM in your production profile. This clarity of function, it just eliminates the paralysis that comes from an overly complex, generalized interface. It fulfills the simple principle of SAFE.
To make this entirely tangible, let's walk through the full life cycle of a legacy project. Let's say specifically writing a detailed family history based on personal documents and memories using this two-tool system.
Great idea. Let's follow a listener, maybe a retired historian who wants to compile her family's immigration story from the 1950s. Phase 1. Thinking and structuring. This happens in Gemini. She starts in her private confessional. Her initial prompt is messy, something like, I want to write about my grandmother's trip to this country, but I don't know where to start. I just have some old letters and vague memories.
A very common starting point.
Very. So Gemini immediately guides her. It says, to start, let's create an organizational structure. Based on historical nonfiction principles, here are 3 potential narrative outlines: chronological, thematic, or character-driven. Which one resonates most with your memory?
So it's already giving her professional level structure.
Instantly, she chooses chronological. Gemini then outputs a detailed 12-chapter outline based on common historical narratives, arrival, initial struggles, community integration, and so on. That outline is her initial reasoned plan.
And now she's ready for phase 2. Now she's ready. Phase 2, building and production. This happens in Notebook LM. She takes that final 12-chapter outline and moves over to her life and legacy profile, and she opens Notebook LM. She then uploads all her primary source materials, scanned letters, old photos, maybe transcriptions of oral interviews she did years ago.
So all her personal data is now in the system.
Right. And she tells Notebook LM, use the 12-chapter outline provided and structure my uploaded sources underneath the relevant chapter headings.
Wow.
And Notebook LM's key function is its ability to ground the writing. When she asks it to draft the opening paragraph for Chapter 3, Initial Struggles, Notebook LM only references the specific details found in the letter she uploaded. It will not hallucinate, it won't inject external, generic information about immigration.
That is the core difference. Gemini generates the idea based on its general vast knowledge, but Notebook LM uses the user's specific personal data to ensure authenticity and accuracy in the final product.
Yes.
That directly links AI to the creation of factual personal legacy. It connects their lived experience directly to the output. And this entire process, it ties directly back to the remaining elements of safe, fun, and educational.
How so?
Well, generating legacy content is inherently meaningful. You are learning advanced AI skills, prompting, structuring, source management, but you're doing it in the service of a highly personal and valuable outcome. It makes the educational component practical and immediately relevant. And furthermore, the rapid organization of decades of memories into shareable, structured stories is it's incredibly rewarding. It fulfills that promise of turning mindless surfing into meaningful creation.
This has been a complete and I think a very thorough deep dive into the SAFE protocol. It's a framework designed not just to introduce a technology, but to leverage a lifetime of wisdom and professional competence. Let's just quickly recap the 4 major pillars that define this path to becoming an AI bloomer.
First, you grasp the core philosophy, that transformation from boomer to bloomer, recognizing that your intelligence, your critical thinking, your decades of life experience, those are your greatest assets. And the SAFE acronym, simple, accessible, fun, and educational, guarantees those assets will be honored.
Second, you've embraced that critical first step, the private confessional. That's your judgment-free rehearsal room, ideally using a dedicated private Gemini account. This is where you practice prompting without any performance anxiety.
Third, you adopted the organizational strategy, the clean slate architecture, using simple tools like Chrome profiles to ensure you have peace of mind by separating your life and legacy from your professional and business domains. It's all about eliminating that cognitive friction.
And finally, you understand the ultimate goal. Achieving producer status by assigning specific, non-overlapping functions, Gemini for the strategic thinking and Notebook LM for the structured building, to create valuable, lasting content, like family histories or new business ventures.
So what does this all mean for you right now as you're listening? It means the intimidation factor is officially irrelevant. We want to reinforce that core message one last time.
Please do.
Your intelligence, your life experience, and your basic digital literacy, which, remember, is demonstrated by the ability to order a package online, are the only necessary prerequisites for this entire journey. You already possess everything you need.
And we want to leave you with a concrete challenge, a final provocative thought to spark immediate application. Don't wait for perfection.
Please don't.
Think of one specific memory right now. Perhaps it's a story about a family member you wish was recorded, or maybe it's one crucial, specialized piece of knowledge from your professional life that could benefit others.
Just one thing.
Identify that one piece of information and immediately begin structuring it into a production piece. Use your private confessional as the starting point to just articulate the rough idea without any judgment. Start turning that vast storehouse of knowledge into your first tangible digital legacy asset.
That wraps up another deep dive with our AI team. You know, I often say we are living in the time of our lives. And I hope today you heard exactly why. We are just getting older. We're getting amplified. When you use these tools to clarify the confusion, whether it's with your car, your health, or your business, you're doing something powerful for your life. You are turning noise into reason. You are taking control. But don't let the learning stop here. To keep this abundance flowing, I need you to take one simple step right now. Go to AIPodcastListening.com, check in with us, grab the next episode, and remember, you have the wisdom of a lifetime. Now you have the power to share it. I'm Mike Hayes. Let's keep growing reasonable relationships together.